Indiana Jones, Indiana It's a podcast about Indiana Jones. Every movie, 1 minute at a time. Indiana Jones Minute.
Welcome back to the Indiana Jones Minute, the podcast in which we celebrate and discuss the film Raiders of the Lost Ark 1 minute at a time. I'm Tom Taylor.
I'm Pete Mummert, a co-host and a big fan of Barranca.
And I'm Jerry Porter, the intern.
Who's getting unduly influenced by Pete and his insane ideas about back-shooting thieves. There, I said it. I planted my flag in that camp against Barranca. But today, we are discussing Minute 5. And Minute 5 begins with Indy clarifying, actually, that Forrestal was not only good, he was very, very good. And it ends a minute later with Satipo spiders. Who go in there on a dare and stuff, and, you know.
Maybe.
Neighborhood kids. Little Billy Javitos, Jimmy Javitos.
Well, I was just like, what would happen if he convinced Indy? Because he sort of implores him. He goes, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, what if he said,
I thought he was saying the opposite, like, please don't go in there. But maybe he was saying, please, go in.
No.
Nobody's come out of there alive. It's awesome. Please.
But I'm like, what if Indiana Jones goes, you know what? We already had one trader. Maybe this is a bad idea.
This
Do you
looks
just
really
go,
dangerous.
Yeah, let's just go back to Cusco. He'd be like, yeah, it's a much better idea.
That'd be a total Tom Selleck move.
Yeah, screw Tom Selleck. It would have been a B+.
The Ferrari would have been parked down by the river. He'd just hop in.
You would have clapped. You know you would have.
That's right. I would have forgotten it by the time I was 11. Well, so back, so Forrestal's, yeah, he's very, very good.
Yeah.
That means
Indy's worried.
I agree. I think Indy senses that something's going to be dangerous coming up.
Totally. And I will, you've got your Star Wars lines, you've got your Raiders lines, this is one of the, I still say this probably every week or so. Nobody's come out of there alive. Please. My friend Sean and Mark and I would constantly say that and everything else from this movie. Please.
Does Indiana Jones ever compliment anybody else in these movies the way he compliments Forrestal? I guess he compliments Sala, but I don't know if that's a little tongue-in-cheek.
He's big on Abner Ravenwood.
Yeah, all those people are dead.
True.
Forrestal's dead.
Well, he doesn't know
Ravenwood's
Abner's dead when he says it. Spoilers.
That's true.
But he seems like he speaks much more highly of Forrestal than he does a lot of people.
He might not even be. We were saying last minute that they might have been, bitter competitors, but maybe they were just, oh, I'm from Yale, he's from Harvard, and but he's really good and I'm really good, so we're always going after the same stuff.
They had like a friendly contest.
Yeah.
Which I was wondering. So when they actually enter the cave, and you're sitting there and you're like, oh, those spiders have been building their homes for thousands of years.
Yeah.
When you're looking at it, and you're like, so did Forrestal go in that way? Like, did the maybe Forrestal was there like a year ago or something, and the webs grew back that quickly? Or did he go in there? Did he go like a different way? Like we were talking about, this is where he cashed in. It's like, did he think he cashed in at the opening of the cave? Did he just cash in the environment, like just around there within like? It doesn't look like he's been there. It doesn't look obvious. It doesn't look like anybody's been there.
Well, he doesn't give any indication right here of how long ago that might have happened. Like when Forrestal cashed in.
I have a confession. I spent a long time actually reading about South American spiders. Like which ones make webs that big.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's something called a stretch spider. And they're one of the few spiders that make, like the types of webs that are like like their own environment, kind of like what he peels through.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I also noticed, did you guys notice like the obviously the what makes the tarantula thing so spooky is the like piano string plinking
Oh my
noise.
gosh,
Yeah.
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 Yeah. But when he breaks through the web right before that, there's a little soft spider piano plinking noise too. It's like
Little
you
baby
hear it
plinking.
twice. Yeah, it's like oh wait. He goes in, it's like and then he notices the tarantulas.
I have to say that when I think about, I spend a lot of time wrestling, and maybe doing this movie minute by minute will help me out. I spend a lot of time wrestling with why exactly this movie is so much. I like all the movies, basically all 3 movies in the Indiana Jones series, but this one is the one, and I keep trying to think of what exactly makes it so much better than the others. And the first thing I think, well, one of 2 first things that I think of is these spider webs, because they look so real and so spiderwebby. And then even in like Temple of Doom a few years later, they look like somebody went to like Costco and when they had their Halloween decorations out and they got a big bag of white frizzy stuff and just kind of hung it around. But this looks just incredible.
I agree. I think it's fantastic.
Like, was there one guy who could do that? He was like the go-to guy who could do spiderwebs awesomely, and then he died or something? He didn't pass on his secret to his son or his nephew or anything?
Well, I had a question about the webs too, because I don't know where I got the idea, but I had always had the impression that if you put a lit torch up to a giant spider web, it would just immediately turn into an inferno.
Oh my gosh.
And so I actually looked this up, and apparently a lot of people have asked this question.
About this movie or
that's
just about
only in
spider-
North
No,
America.
about cobwebs in general or spider webs in general. Do they burn? And the answer is they kind of melt and shrivel up. But if they're really old and they have a lot of dust on them, the dust can be very flammable.
Oh, wow.
So it seems to me that Satipo maybe should have been a little more careful with the torch.
Yeah, maybe. Well, you think both of these guys have to have been in this kind of situation before, in a dark, spiderweb-strewn cave with torches?
Or maybe Forrestal was there like a week ago.
Maybe.
And he dealt with it, and then they grew back, but they didn't have dust on them.
They cut out the sign that he left saying, here, duck through here. Watch out for the spider webs.
Well, I also, I looked at the tarantulas and I looked up tarantulas, South American tarantulas, to see like, okay, where does the movie take place? Like according to the movie, not according to Splinter in the Mind's Eye, not according to the Indiana Jones and the Young Drunk Chronicles, whatever it is. They're, they show different places like, oh, the tarantulas are, indigenous to Africa and indigenous to here. But when it came to South America, the entire continent was colored in. And I'm like, that still doesn't help.
It said South America.
It said
There's
South
spiders there. What do you
America,
want?
and then I was like, all right, well, they're in South America wherever there are tarantulas.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you look, and all of South America has tarantulas.
Well, there's your answer.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm going to find out, according to the movie. Not Hawaii.
Find out what the tarantula population was in 1936 in South America. So that big hole.
Yeah.
We know what that hole is, right?
It seems like something's going to come out of that hole later.
Maybe. When you first saw this, did you, or even like the second or third time you saw it, did you notice that? I mean, we notice it because we know what it is now. But did that seem like a big,
I've watched this movie, I don't know how many dozens of times, and watching this minute for maybe the 5th time in a row was the first time I think I ever saw that hole.
Wow.
Yeah, I agree. I had no idea that you're like, oh, he's going to backtrack through that entrance. I always thought he found some side something or other.
Oh, you thought later on that this wasn't the same passage?
Yeah, I did.
I guess maybe I did too. That's weird.
Like he didn't like double back. I don't know why I didn't think that, but you kind of think like, well, why wouldn't it have come down the first time? Maybe.
I may be splitting hairs here, but as an archaeologist, it seems like Dr. Jones would be very in tune with sort of looking at the context of everything he's seeing. And it seems like he might have looked up at that hole and thought, that's a really round hole. I wonder why that's there.
There's only one reason for a hole that big at the end of a sort of ramp on both sides.
But maybe he knew. Maybe that's why he knows so much about what's coming up. Maybe he instantly deduced, I know what that is.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, here's something I literally only just noticed the last time I watched this minute. Looking down that passage, like past the hole, are those the steps leading up to the idol? It kind of, like if you look way straight down there, it looks like there's steps going up to a thing, like just a few steps. Which is weird because later on we'll see that he's actually, they turn a couple of corners and stuff, I think.
I'm looking at it right now.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I do see some steps. But they have
a little bit.
It does. It makes the distance that one might have to run through that tunnel maybe a little less dramatic.
Right. It almost seems like, oh, here we built this set, but now we got other stuff we want to do between points A and B.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you could make it to those steps in about a second and a half.
Yeah, maybe without swinging over a big pit, even.
Who knows? Maybe that'll be that easy for him.
I'm sure it will be.
I mean, that's just
only
the
like
first
half an hour long.
The first passageway or something.
Maybe, or maybe they just take the long way. Who knows? If only we could watch more minutes than one at a time. This is awful.
Did either of you read any of the behind the scenes about this spider scene?
I seem to remember stuff from the old days, like making of specials that were on TV and stuff. But what did you read, or was that what you were reading to?
Apparently they put all these spiders, all these tarantulas on Satipo's back, and they didn't move. And they were all male tarantulas, and they had to introduce a female tarantula to get them to move.
Oh yeah.
So what you're seeing on Satipo's back is a very choreographed event.
Every time I see Indy do that move where he's just like kind of blithely wiping them off Satipo's back, I always assume, I bet they told Harrison Ford not to actually make contact with him, and he's just sort of like waving his whip like like a foot away from him. Because I assume like they would go bananas on poor Alfred Molina.
I like how he got Satipo to turn around.
Oh, he kind of like, he does a little twirly with his finger.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's some grave robber stuff right there.
That's also some Spielberg stuff. That's like a very well, his hand is right here in this part of the frame. He could say, "Hey, turn around," or he could do this little thing in the frame with his hand.
That's why the movie is. I mean, that's why you're saying like the first one really sticks out. As I don't know, there's each scene has like these little vignettes that are just fantastic.
Yeah.
Or it's like Forrestal's really good, and why is he putting the sand in the bat? And you're like, oh my gosh, there's a little something for me to latch on to here.
Yeah.
But the other one, they're frequently pummeling you, just with here's a little kid who
yeah. Here's a pit of bugs.
There's a pit. Yeah, it's not the things are less subtle.
Yeah. You know what the thing is? I've thought a lot about this over the years. Star Wars and even like Jaws and Close Encounters and Empire and up to this. I think this might be the last Spielberg Lucas era blockbuster that wasn't based on blockbusters. By the time they get to Return of the Jedi and Temple of Doom, they're sort of oh, let's make a summer blockbuster. But by the time they did this, they were saying, let's make an awesome movie based on these other movies and stuff. We're young, crazy, hotshot directors. Let's do this cool thing. Yeah. And oh my God, it just made tons of money. It seems like, this is right at the cusp of when they started to kind of feed on themselves a little bit.
Well, did that happen with remember Reese's Pieces and E.T.?
Yeah.
Is that? Is it what? Gosh, what year was E.T.?
It was the next year, 82.
Huh? There you go. I rest my case.
I guess
what year were Reese's Pieces? I mean, I'm done.
You couldn't hear, but Jerry just dropped his phone, walked away. Not that I don't love every single summer blockbuster that's come out since then.
If we're talking about, we may be going a little far astray here, but if we're talking about when E.T. came out and when Raiders came out, when did the Atari video games for those two come out? Did they come out at the same time? Because they were very similar games.
Yeah. I never had the Raiders one. I hope that's okay. But I did have the E.T. one, and I'll tell everyone right now, I would like to see Tom Selleck in this movie, and I had fun playing the Atari E.T. game. It was very stupid and kind of pointless, but I had fun playing it. So forget it.
Those are those, Tommy didn't apply himself years.
Yeah. What are you doing in there, Tommy? Not applying yourself? Dad, I'm making my neck go long so I can get out of the pit. I ate enough Reese's Pieces so I can do it. No thanks to you, old man. Anyway. Is that all we have for minute 5?
That's what I got.
My God, guys, we're a week into this thing.
You know what? I have one more thing to add.
Oh, do it.
I think that the tarantulas were Goliath bird eaters.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, the largest South American spider. The largest spider.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That was it. I could be completely wrong, but I pulled it up and I looked, I'm like, it kind of looks like that. And then there's other ones. There's like I think something like called a Brazilian black and white spider, but those are really expensive and they're probably hard to rent.
Was this back when movies said no animals were harmed in the filming of this production?
I think they still do. I mean, yeah, I think they've done that for like way before and way after. But you always have your doubts. Like, really?
Yeah, were these spiders all...
Nobody stepped on one of them. Is that what you're telling me?
I just hope they hired local.
They do taste better that way.
Yeah. Well, they got the female in there to get them to move.
Yeah.
Well, all right. I think that's all we've got for minute 5. Pete, where do all these nice people go if they want to interact with us with things beyond their ears?
Well, if you enjoy this show, please follow us on Facebook. Please find us at IndianaJonesMinute.com. You can subscribe to us on iTunes. You can leave us a recommendation, a review. If you don't like us, you do not have to leave us a review. You can follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, right here at the Indiana Jones Minute.
Jones!
Jones!
Joe?
Tom Selleck!
Dude, as well as you do it, Tommy.